Now, I made a video about the first 28 years later, as well as the first two films in the franchise. They're fun movies, but I can't say I was a huge fan. I liked 28 Days Later decent enough, and 28 Weeks is an enjoyable movie that just happens to be kinda bad. However, I came out of 28 Years Later a bit let down. I liked the direction they went, with its quirky cinematography and hopeful themes in the face of apocalypse, but the execution left a bit to be desired. I basically knew nothing coming into the Bone Temple, only that Nia DaCosta would be taking the directing reins from Danny Boyle. So just know that I mean it when I say that this was a spectacular movie experience. Please go see this in theaters, I beg of you, because as of writing this, it is bombing. It would disappoint me more than 28 years later if we did not get to see a proper ending to this trilogy. If the masses let me down like this, I might finally know how Zack Snyder fans feel. But anyways, on the topic of the actual movie, yeah, this is a huge upgrade. Easily my favorite of the series, and a great way to start off this year of movies. My first big compliment is to the writing. Alex Garland really stepped it up for this one. It is such a tight screenplay. No scene ever feels unnecessary. Every single moment seamlessly flows into the next. This movie is only an hour and 50 minutes, which is already fairly short in terms of modern blockbusters, but it feels like half the length. I came out of the theater feeling like half an hour had passed. If I'm being honest, the biggest flaw I personally had was that I genuinely wanted more of the Bone Temple. The way people reportedly felt depressed after watching Avatar, that's me now, with the fucking zombie cult movie. It just gave me a sense of joy while watching it. Cinematography looks beautiful, the writing is efficient and gripping, the editing is snappy, and the direction from Nia DaCosta is perfect for what the film requires. Chances are, if you didn't see DaCosta's Candyman sequel, you probably know her most from helming one of the biggest box office bombs of all time, The Marvels. Even though The Marvels is a decently fun film, it's unfortunate that people have to associate her with its lack of success, because we all know that directors are rarely the ones in charge of studio blockbusters, and especially at Marvel.
This is why I like The Last Jedi because like it deals with
Let
this
me
like
tell you
we talk about
something
yeah.
about that movie. It's amazing.
Give me some.
However, this film really showcases her talents in the best way possible. She captures the terror that Spike faces from the Jimmies just as well as the empathy and friendship that we see with Dr. Ian Kelson and the Alpha Samson. It's a very focused story, with only two or three true set pieces, and she frames those set pieces well enough that the audience is always aware of the story's possibilities. In the beginning scene, where Spike is forced into a fight to the death, we're put into his shoes. We feel the claustrophobic nature of his fight, no hope for survival, and even less hope of escape. There's a dinner table scene that feels eerily similar, as Spike is surrounded by the walls of the house and by those who won't hesitate to hurt him. In terms of pure fear factor, this might be the best of the franchise, which is saying a lot, considering this is the one with by far the least infected. That is owed in large part to Jack O'Connell's amazing performance as Sir Lord Jimmy Crystal. Jack O'Connell is on a generational run, after killing it in Sinners and doing the same here. He is brilliantly unhinged as Jimmy Crystal, based on the infamous sex offender Jimmy Savile, and he serves as an X factor that always keeps you on your toes. He and all the other Jimmys are insane in the most unsettling, unpredictable, yet entertaining way. O'Connell on his own brings a certain level of tension to each scene he's in, but two of the supporting Jimmys stood out in particular, the empathetic Jimmy Inc. and the batshit crazy Jemima. Jemima is there to be the loose cannon of the group, a very Harley Quinn type character. She doesn't get many lines, but she definitely leaves the biggest impression of all the minor Jimmys. She, along with Sir Jimmy, represent the worst of this world that has devolved into anarchy, as they care little for the lives of any person and are more interested in Teletubby dances. Jimmy Inc. serves as the older sister type character to Spike, who is also dubbed Jimmy early in the film. She's someone that Spike can rely on as she takes him under her wing, but she also serves as a reminder to Spike of what kind of person he might become if he stays with the group. Alfie Williams as Spike still acts as the heart and soul of the 28 years later storyline, and he's still very good in the role. Even after all he's gone through in the last movie, he rarely finds moments of peace as he and the audience are bombarded with a never ending nightmare. We follow him as he sees the true horrors that await him on the British mainland, or as I like to read into it, the adult world. He's forced to grow up very quickly in an environment that a child probably shouldn't have to deal with, and we watch as he both tries to escape his situation and maintain his sanity and innocence. While we all love Spike, he's actually only one half of the film's story. The other half belongs to Dr. Kelson, played by the one and only Ray Fiennes. If you're online or on Letterboxd at all, you might see some people glazing the movie and Ray Fiennes, saying that the man deserves an Oscar or something for this performance. Well, I'm here to tell you that it is not hyperbole. Guy is legitimately amazing, and there are at least three scenes that I wouldn't be surprised if they got used for his Oscar clip. Dr. Ian Kelson is a joy to watch on screen, and he is also my best friend. Anyways, this is where the video is going to get into some spoilers, so if you haven't yet seen the movie, I would highly recommend you do so before eagerly coming back and continuing this video. And on that note, here is your 5-second spoiler warning. Welcome back. I'm glad you liked it. But as I was saying, Dr. Kelson's storyline follows him and the alpha-infected Samson as he tries to figure out what exactly Samson's deal is. He figures out that Samson, played by Chai Lewis Perry, is not the savage brute that we thought he was. In the ensuing friendship fueled by morphine and Duran Duran, we get one of the best examples of boys will be boys that cinema has to offer. Kelson sits with, talks to, and shares the occasional dance with Samson to show us that the virus may not be the end for those infected. Kelson's empathy is shown in the first film through his reluctance to kill Samson and his willingness to help Spike and Isla. And in the Bone Temple, it's contrasted with the brutality and ruthlessness of Jimmy Crystal and his followers. While Jimmy Crystal delights in spreading pain and suffering, Kelson makes efforts not just to understand the infected, but possibly cure them as well. In a world filled with so much fear and death, one can either choose to take part in it or try and be better. Scenes with Kelson and Samson are the highlight of the story, as seeing these two unlikely companions exist peacefully in spite of the world they live in just feels satisfying. That friendship culminates in the scene where Samson becomes the first of the infected to actually speak. Except for that one kid in 28 days, but don't worry about that. Despite taking on the role of the atheist in the narrative, Kelson's faith in this instance pays off as he finally has proof that there is indeed still humanity within the infected. After being threatened by Sir Jimmy, he throws together a concoction of drugs to try and grant Samson some peace of mind. Samson gradually starts to snap out of his infection-induced rage, which then results in another great moment of speech.
Have a ticket.
Unfortunately, his regained humanity seems to erase his alpha status with the infected, and he is promptly attacked. Although, I'm sure the big guy is fine. With Spike, however, after a whole ordeal that involves torture, death matches, and a fiery inferno, he's put in a situation where he must choose to either kill an escaping pregnant woman on Sir Jimmy's orders, or spare her life. He chooses the latter, again speaking to his youthful kindness and innocence, and he asks the woman to take him with her. This is his chance to escape the nightmare. After the first film, you might think that this is where Spike's story is returning to a more normal state. He's found another motherly figure that can offer some companionship in these trying times. We all know pregnant ladies are the nicest people you can meet in the apocalypse, so naturally, she kicks his ass and ditches him. It truly is every man for himself out here. The burning barn scene shows us how even when the Jimmies think they're in control, they're not. Despite claiming to be Satan's soldiers, they suffer from the same hellscape that everyone else does. It actually kind of reminds me of Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men, and his whole ideology of fate.
If the rule you followed, Roger it is. Of what use was the rule?
At the end of No Country, Chigurh gets run into by a random car, leaving him injured and vulnerable after 2 hours of seeming practically invincible. He's no better than the people he hunts or the unpredictable world he inhabits. He's willing to wax poetic when he feels in control of his fate, but that control can just as easily be taken at the drop of a dime. That is Sir Lord Jimmy Crystal. He claims to be enacting his father's wishes, and he puts himself at the pinnacle of his satanic hierarchy, but at the end of the day, he falls out of the same rules that the rest of the mainland does. Don't worry, he'll keep testing his fate. And that brings us to the much anticipated meeting between him and Kelson. Their whole conversation is fascinating as it dives into the differences between the two approaches to surviving in this world. We see the fanaticism of Jimmy, where he's convinced that everything is some kind of wrath from God or Satan. The violence that has surrounded him since childhood has warped his mind into hearing his father in his head and believing the world was punished for its sins. Sitting down with Kelson is probably the one time he can actually talk normally about things, but of course, he reverts back to the only path he knows, which is violence. Kelson, on the other hand, is a lot more calm in their interaction. He's such a soothing and warm presence in this film, contrasted by how much he looks like he shouldn't be. His empathetic nature stretches even to Jimmy as he talks about his past, and both Kelson and the audience start to put together the pieces of how Jimmy ended up this way. Talking to Kelson seems to give Jimmy some relief, but I think everyone knows that he's too far gone to truly change his ways now. Kelson is obviously not Satan, but that's not exactly convenient for Sir Jimmy, as he forces Kelson to pretend, lest he choke on his own intestines. Kelson agrees to go along with Jimmy's whole Satan plan, and this is where we now get to the best part of the movie. Kelson sets his stage, prepares some Iron Maiden, and he gives us the performance of a lifetime. I don't know how many clips I can show of it, but I promise that it is worth seeing in a theater. I know I'm already in the spoiler section of the video, but trust me, nothing I can say will be able to do what happens in this scene justice. Ray Fiennes, we will get you that Oscar one way or another. Anyways, Sir Jimmy is almost set to go and spread his satanic gospel until Kelson recognizes Spike under his Jimmy mask. His last bit of empathy exceeds his self-preservation and opts to turn on Jimmy and requests his crucifixion, as a father does. In response, Sir Jimmy then dubs himself the true Satan and fatally stabs Kelson. The ever-so-kind Jimmy Inc., however, is still very eager to follow through on that last command. She and Spike combine to incapacitate Sir Jimmy and kill the rest of the cult. Unfortunately, Kelson does indeed pass away from his wounds, but not before having one final moment with Samson, who thanks him for all he's done. Rest in peace to a real one. Sir Jimmy is crucified on an inverted cross like the devil that he is, and Spike and Jimmy Inc., whose real name is Kelly, escape the Bone Temple. In the final scene, though, we get a short respite from their adventures to check in on an old friend, Cillian Murphy's Jim. The GOAT is back, people. It's been 3 movies in 28 years, but our boy is finally back in action. We see him staying at the same little home that we left off with back in 28 Days Later, with a few Easter eggs thrown in that I'm sure people have noticed. We see Jim tutoring his teenage daughter Sam on some nice wartime history before they notice our protagonists fleeing a pack of infected. Sam asks whether or not they should help them, and Jim, being the hero that he is, says of course. As they race off to help and the credits start to roll, we're treated to a needle drop of the franchise's signature theme, In the House in a Heartbeat. And let me just say, when the movie ended and the lights came up, absolute cinema. This is how you make a movie. The MCU rebound is real. I don't even have any real complaints about this movie. It's brisk, it's camp, it's scary, and above all, it's a damn good time. This movie is now my litmus test for how much I trust your movie opinions. If you somehow think this is boring, then I'm sorry, that's a you problem. Some of the only nitpicks I've seen are that the pregnant lady doesn't come back, it's a bit overly violent of a blockbuster, Spike gets sidelined a little in favor of other characters, and that 28 weeks later is kinda just thrown away. This goes for the first 28 years later as well, because if you look at where the plot leaves off in Weeks, and even the overall vibes it had, you can tell that the new ones really favor the original in terms of inspiration. We haven't gotten any follow-up on the Cure plotline, and clearly the European infection isn't that important, but who knows, maybe the third film will tie everything together. While I don't think anything's been completely retconned, it does make things a bit messy. However, I still don't really think it's that big of a deal, since people only remember that movie for the first scene anyway. The Bone Temple is probably my favorite zombie movie that I've ever seen, and I'm glad it's been getting a lot of positive word of mouth. It's sad that it's underperforming at the box office, but at the very least, we were able to see this one reach its full potential. We're way ahead of schedule, but I would probably call this the first great movie of 2026. 4.5 out of 5. Please watch this in theaters. I promise it's good. But anyways, if you liked this video and want to see more cinema-related content like this, you can like and subscribe to Dolphin Reaper Cinema. See you in the next one.